What if Portugal's greatest World Cup opportunity is happening right now, not 10 years ago, not when Cristiano Ronaldo was at his absolute peak, not during the golden years of Portuguese football, right now, because for all of Portugal's football history, all of its legendary players, and all of its success at the European level, there is still one achievement missing, one trophy, one dream, one obsession, the FIFA World Cup. And that is what makes World Cup 2026 so fascinating, because Portugal may have never entered a tournament with this much talent, this much depth, and this much expectation. Yet at the center of everything remains the same question football fans have been asking for years. Can Cristiano Ronaldo finally win the World Cup? Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Do you think Portugal can win the World Cup in 2026? Or will another football giant stop them again? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy football documentaries, World Cup stories, and deep analysis, make sure you subscribe because Portugal's journey could become one of the biggest stories of this entire tournament. The strange thing about Portugal is that they have spent years living in football's shadow, not because they lack quality, because they always seem to arrive at the wrong time. When they had a great generation, Spain dominated. When Spain declined, France emerged. When France looked vulnerable, Argentina arrived. Every era seemed to have another giant standing in the way. And yet, Portugal kept producing talent, extraordinary talent. From Luis Figo to Rui Costa, from Deco to Ricardo Carvalho, from Pepe to Bruno Fernandes, from Bernardo Silva to Vitinha, and of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest player Portugal has ever produced, one of the greatest players football has ever seen, a player who transformed an entire nation's expectations. Before Ronaldo, Portugal hoped. With Ronaldo, Portugal expected. That changed everything. Suddenly reaching tournaments wasn't enough. Quarterfinals weren't enough. Even semifinals weren't enough. The goal became simple. Win it all. And for years, Ronaldo carried that burden almost alone. Every major tournament became another opportunity, another chance, another attempt to complete football's greatest collection of trophies. But something always went wrong. A missed opportunity, a stronger opponent, a heartbreaking defeat. The World Cup remained just out of reach. Now, heading into 2026, the conversation feels different. Not because Ronaldo has disappeared, because he hasn't. The conversation feels different because Portugal are no longer dependent on him. And that might be the most important development in their history. Think about this current squad. Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, João Neves, Rafael Leao, Pedro Neto, Ruben Dias, Nuno Mendes, Diogo Costa. Every position is filled with elite-level quality. Some analysts have even argued that Portugal possessed the deepest squad in the entire tournament. Not the best starting 11, the deepest squad. And in a modern World Cup, depth matters. A lot, because tournaments aren't won by 11 players anymore. They're won by squads. Injuries happen. Suspensions happen. Fatigue happens. The teams that survive are usually the teams with options. Portugal have options everywhere, which is why many people now consider them genuine contenders rather than outsiders. But there is still one issue nobody can ignore. Cristiano Ronaldo. Not because he isn't a legend, because he is. Not because he hasn't achieved enough, because he has achieved almost everything. The question is whether Portugal are stronger with him starting every match. That's where the debate begins. Some believe Ronaldo remains essential. Others believe Portugal's future requires difficult decisions. And honestly, both sides have valid arguments. The supporters of Ronaldo point to one simple fact: goals. Even in his 40s, Ronaldo continues scoring. Even now, defenders fear him. Even now, his presence changes games. His leadership, his experience, his mentality. You cannot measure those things on a statistics sheet. And in tournament football, experience often matters more than people realize. But critics point to something else. Recent tournaments, the last World Cup, the last Euros, the latter stages of major competitions. Moments where Portugal appear to struggle. Moments where younger, more energetic attackers seem better suited to modern football. moments that raised uncomfortable questions. Questions Roberto Martinez may eventually need to answer because every manager dreams of having great players. But sometimes great players create difficult decisions, especially when they become legends. Dropping an ordinary player is easy. Dropping Cristiano Ronaldo is something entirely different, and that's why Martinez may face the biggest decision of his career. If Portugal reach the knockout rounds and Ronaldo struggles, what happens? Does he remain untouchable? Or does the manager make the difficult call? Nobody knows. Perhaps not even Roberto Martinez himself. The good news for Portugal is that they aren't entering this tournament as a one-man team. Far from it. Bruno Fernandes may be playing the best football of his career. Vitinha has become one of Europe's most complete midfielders. João Neves looks like one of football's future superstars. Rafael Leao remains one of the most explosive attackers in the game. And then there is Bernardo Silva, a player capable of controlling matches in ways few footballers can. Together they form a squad filled with technical quality, intelligence, and versatility, which is why so many analysts are excited, because Portugal finally looked balanced. Not perfect. Balance. That's a huge difference. And balance wins tournaments. Just look at recent World Cup champions. They weren't always the most talented. They were often the most complete, the most adaptable, the most stable. Portugal appeared to be moving in that direction. Yet another challenge remains. History, because only 8 nations have ever won the World Cup. 8! Football has existed for generations. Hundreds of countries have competed. Only 8 have succeeded. That statistic matters. Winning the World Cup is harder than people think. Much harder. Talent alone isn't enough. England have learned that lesson. Belgium learned it. The Netherlands learned it. Many golden generations have discovered that football doesn't hand out trophies simply because a team looks impressive on paper. Portugal know this, which is why they understand the danger ahead. Because World Cups are decided by tiny margins. One injury, one mistake, one red card, one missed penalty, one moment. Sometimes that's all it takes. The difference between champions and disappointment can be incredibly small. Yet despite all those risks, there is a growing sense that Portugal belong among the favorites. Not because they have the biggest star, not because they have the biggest reputation, because they have solutions. Solutions everywhere. And perhaps for the first time ever, they have enough quality to survive even when things don't go perfectly. That's what separates contenders from dreamers. Contenders find ways to win, and Portugal finally look like contenders. Will they win the World Cup? Nobody knows. Maybe France stopped them. Maybe Argentina stopped them. Maybe Brazil finally return. Maybe Spain rise again. The competition is brutal. But one thing feels different this time. Portugal no longer feel like a talented outsider hoping for a miracle. They feel like a genuine threat. A team capable of beating anyone. A team capable of reaching the final. A team capable of making history. And perhaps that's why World Cup 2026 feels so important. Because opportunities like this don't arrive often. Squads age. Generations change. Momentum disappears. What looks possible today may not exist 4 years from now. For Cristiano Ronaldo, this could be the final chapter. For Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, and the rest of the generation, this could be the greatest opportunity of their careers. For Portugal, this could be the moment everything finally comes together. The talent is there. The depth is there. The manager believes. The fans believe. Now comes the hardest part, proving it. Because football remembers winners. And Portugal are still waiting to become one. The question is whether World Cup 2026 will finally be the tournament that changes everything.